breaking news now coming in. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has spoken with President Putin, Russian President Vladimir Putin, where Putin shared his assessment of the recent meeting that he had with President Trump, the summit in Alaska. So there the Russian president dialing Prime Minister Modi to share his information, to share his assessment. The Prime Minister underlined India's consistent position for a peaceful resolution of conflict, reiterating India's support for all efforts in this regard. So a whole host of bilateral issues were discussed. Remember, India is being punished with extra 25% tariff for importing oil from Russia. That is something that Trump did announce. There were hopes that after the summit in Alaska, perhaps things would ease on that tariff front. So Vladimir Putin there dialing up the Prime Minister, sharing his assessment of the meeting that he had with the President of the US, Donald Trump, in Alaska last week. Let's go across to Akhilesh for more on this story. All right, we will try and go across to one of our reporters on this big breaking news. The two leaders were told in the readout that they also touched upon a number of issues of bilateral cooperation with a view to further strengthen the special and privileged strategic partnership between India and Russia. So very, very significant, the Russian president dialing Prime Minister Modi, and in fact they will be meeting as well in China later this month when the Prime Minister goes for the SCO summit to China. So the Prime Minister, it revealed that Putin shared insights on the Trump meeting in this phone conversation that he had with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And the two leaders also discussed a number of issues of bilateral cooperation, also agreeing to remain in close touch given all these developments that are taking place in the geopolitics as well. And Vladimir Putin there sharing his assessment of his meeting that he had with Donald Trump in Alaska last week. Well, let's go across to Ghazali now for more. Ghazali, give us more details of what has been revealed about this very significant conversation between Vladimir Putin and Prime Minister Modi.
See, Vladimir Putin acknowledged one fact that what India's diplomacy or Prime Minister has been saying since this conflict broke between Russia and Ukraine, that this is not the era of war and solutions can't be found on the battlefield. Dialogue and the diplomacy is the only way out. And after almost 2.5 years since this conflict has broken, even the US administration was forced to put these two countries on the table. Now Mr. Putin has met Mr. Trump, and now Mr. Trump will be meeting Mr. Zelensky tonight. So Mr. Putin has thanked Prime Minister for his consistent approach, for his consistent suggestion that talks are the only way out to bring an end to this conflict. And he said that India's consistent position for a peaceful resolution of the conflict through diplomacy and dialogue is something for which Mr. Putin has thanked the Prime Minister Modi. And he also sort of shared details of what happened in the Alaska summit, underlying the fact that India was first among the first countries to kind of back this summit, because India has constantly pushed that Mr. Putin should not be isolated diplomatically, what the Western and European countries were actually trying for. So Mr. Vladimir Putin has shared the details of the meeting with Prime Minister after having after attending the Alaska summit with Mr. Trump.
That's right. So lots of developments on this geopolitical front, Ghazali. Given that currently you have Zelensky in Washington, European leaders in Washington to meet with President Trump there, and here you have the Prime Minister having this conversation with President Putin and sharing his insights on that summit in Alaska.
Prime Minister Modi also happens to be one of the very few leaders with whom Mr. Putin had spoken after attending the Alaska summit. Also, why it is significant, Mr. Zelensky, before attending today's White House meeting, has been calling up other European partners, like be it the Prime Minister of Britain, Germany, and all those Western countries or the European Union leaders who are backing Zelensky, and some of them will also accompany him to the White House meeting tonight. Similarly, Mr. Putin is also trying to show that he also has got friends in Global South. He is likely to speak to the Chinese president, his counterpart, Mr. Xi Jinping. He's also likely to speak to the Brazilian president, Mr. Lula, who has been calling for more collaboration and coordination among the BRICS member countries. But he chose to speak to Prime Minister of India, Mr. Modi. Mr. Modi is also one of the very few leaders who have who have had actual conversations with both the leaders, both Mr. Zelensky and Putin. So perhaps that is the reason why Mr. Putin chose Indian Prime Minister to share the details of the Alaska summit, and he called up Prime Minister Modi to share what all transpired between him and Mr. Trump, because what we are being told is that Mr. Trump has also conveyed to Mr. Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, that perhaps Ukraine will have to agree for a ceasefire, and the major contentious issue is the land swapping, or to say that Russia will not sort of leave those land which have been occupied by Russia, or Ukrainian territory will not be returned to Ukraine, is what something White House has conveyed to Mr. Zelensky, who will be meeting the president tonight.
That's right. Ghazali, though, will also very keenly be, watching regarding those tariffs, the, secondary tariffs, whether those will still, whether, Donald Trump is going to change his mind, because he gave, a kind of ambiguous answer regarding that following his Alaska summit, given that he is meeting President Putin, that really, literally rolling out the red carpet, and then on the other hand, punishing India for importing Russian oil. He did say that maybe in 2-3 weeks he would decide. If you could tell our viewers what was, what Trump said on that.
See, Mr. Trump is predictably unpredictable. We all know that. So once it comes to the tariff threat, before attending the Alaska summit, he was quoted saying to one of the news channels there that he will may reconsider his decision of putting secondary tariffs on India, because he got to know that India has cut down on its oil purchase from Russia. But in reality, the data suggests that the oil purchase which was happening last month in July has only gone up in the month of August, and it is likely to go up in September as well. So India on record has not cut down its oil purchase from Russia, but Mr. Trump believes that perhaps India has cut down the oil purchase, and that is something which Mr. Trump considers that he is not going to put secondary tariff on India. But this is all what we know, that Mr. Trump can just flip or change his statement and decisions in time. It will also be interesting to know, once we get to know further details of the conversation between Prime Minister Modi and President Putin, whether this issue of secondary tariff and whether US putting pressure on other countries to not purchase or have trade with Russia did come up for discussion or not, and what was US and Russia's response. Because Russia has categorically rejected these or sought to say criticized these moves by United States to put additional sanctions or additional tariffs on India, because all this while, since Mr. Trump has come into power, he has been sanctioning Indian companies, he has been sanctioning those entities which are purchasing or dealing with Russian organizations. But surprisingly, when it comes to China, there are the discussion over tariffs. Mr. Trump has given a 90-day deadline to China rather than immediately putting sanctions or immediately putting tariffs, additional tariffs on China, which is one of the largest purchasers of Russian oil.